I got to ask for you that.
You all set with that?
Okay, call the meeting, the regular council meeting of May 4th to order.
Workshop.
No, we're in workshop. I know you're anxious. I'm ready.
You're trying to get this done before 9.
Down.
All right.
Let's proceed.
We were gonna rock on.
Okay. First thing we're going to do is a public hearing on the proposed budget. Went through that last council meeting. So we'll have staff comments. Deb will make a few comments if she chooses. We'll have open her public comments, and then we'll close the public hearing. Then we go into our consent agenda, which is pretty self-explanatory, approval of minutes, and next would be the approval of the checks. Under information, there's a charter communications letter and a Right Place monthly update. And moving on to unfinished business, the first item is a resolution to adopt the budget for 15-16. Next would be a motion to approve a resolution 2015-15 to establish the millage rate for real and personal property. And then it would be a motion to approve resolution 2015-16 to establish the fee schedule for the upcoming fiscal year. The next is a motion to approve the bids for the USDA project. That may or may not be on the agenda tonight. We sent out a new packet of specifications. We opened the bids yesterday, and the low bidder was determined to be unresponsive to the bid, so we're working through that. So I don't know if Mike's going to be here tonight to update or not, and ready to make that motion or ask the council to make the motion to approve. So we've been working through that for the last day and a half.
Okay, on that, what would we do with it if one way or another, because we don't have a full council, we can't add to the budget, correct?
What?
Can we table that?
You can
You
table
can
it.
always table.
Yeah.
Well, I just want to make sure
We just amend the agenda.
Right. E is the motion to reinstate the council finance committee. It's been on there for a bit. In the packet is a draft standard operating policy for the recording of council meetings. We met on that. The council had it in the packet, had a chance to review it, hopefully. In essence, the policy will be that all meetings of the city's Spring City Council will be recorded and made readily available with the exception of closed sessions and incomplete recordings to the public. And then we defined what a complete recording was, what a substantially complete recording was, and an incomplete recording. In terms of retention, the city would retain recordings of all council meetings regardless of how they're defined in accordance with our record retention schedule. And in terms of making those available, the city would make the complete and substantially complete recordings readily available to the public through the city's website or other city-approved methods. And those recordings would be made available to the public in a reasonable time period following the completion of the meeting. And then finally, request to review incomplete recordings and recordings of closed session should be handled as a Freedom of Information request. So the members of the committee were happy with that draft, and so it's before the council for consideration. And then the mayor's business, I don't know if you have anything there. Okay. The next is a motion to waive council policy number 12, so we can act on a FOIA appeal at first consideration. It's a motion to approve the FOIA appeal from Todd Cowley, and Linda will be able to expand on that happily, correct?
Absolutely.
Absolutely.
With grins on your face.
Next is a motion to approve a contract for our annual winter holiday decorations. Next is a resolution 2015-13, a resolution approving a new Freedom of Information policy for the city of Cedar Springs. New legislation that goes into effect July 1st, which really changes how FOIA requests are handled. We were extremely fortunate. Our city attorney's law firm developed a policy for us and for other clients. So that's what's in your packet. It's been approved by them, vetted by their staff of attorneys, and they're offering it to a number of municipalities that they represent. And it complies with the law and all the necessary attachments. So we'll be recommending that.
I wondered where that appeared from.
Yes.
So, yeah.
So that's going to be wonderful. Next would be approval of a dispatch agreement between Kent County and the city of Cedar Springs for dispatch service. I know Marty touched on that a little bit the last time. Basically, there's going to be a 3-year agreement, and it's going to be working into the cost. Start out small, worked up, but it'll still be less than what we've historically been paying on an annual basis. And in talking to representatives of Kent County, what they're going to try to do is, by the end of the 3 years, they're hoping to have some other financing that would not include local units of government's contribution, whether that would be phone line charges or a millage for dispatching, but they're working through that. That's their plan.
This is for fire only, right?
Right. Well, that's all we have is the fire. Next is a discussion regarding the financial contribution of the Cedar Springs Historical Museum, and I was contacted by a representative of the board, Fred Gunnell, and they are in some financial distress. So the city used to make contributions and then stop them given the financial situation. I was glad to hear that Solon Township annually contributes $4,000 and Nelson contributes $1,000. So we're talking with them. What we're looking at, what they would like to do is $3,600 annually, $300 a month, to help out with their operations. Ran it by the city attorney. It's obviously allowable as an expense, and he agrees, or he suggests, and I agree that we enter into some type of an agreement with them that would stipulate that there's certain conditions as long as they have a museum, it's open to the public, they're doing things for the community, those kind of things. So it's very clearly in line with the statute that allows us to make contributions to a museum. And, one of the things that I'll ask that be included in there is also an annual report where they can come here and tell the council what they're doing with their money, give us maybe some financials, things like that, just so we can justify what we're spending our community's money for. Then the Cedar Springs Area Parks and Recs is asking to have their Concerts in the Park declared a community event. And then the next is a proposal from the Cedar Springs Community Building Development Team to trade property that they have on Pine Street for city-owned property that's located on 5th Street. So that'll be in front of council for consideration. The next three are actually from the Community Building Development Team, and they're all involve use agreements. And the first one would be for a proposed amphitheater, and I provided council comments on their agreement that we can go into detail with the amphitheater. As I said in the agenda report, I'm in support of using city property for that. But I think we need to have this agreement in much greater detail so it spells out exactly what the expectations are. And as I mentioned at the last community building development team, yeah, I'm in support of it, but I want to make sure that if the city's going to take on a commitment, that they can sustain that. So I think it's going to work out a lot better if we just lay out exactly what the expectations are. Because there's some very general language in here, and I think we can get to where we need to go. But we need to work out in that agreement. The same considerations for the rain garden. That, again, we need an agreement. That one, I think, is really of no consequence to the city in terms of taking on additional responsibilities. We mow the area in question right now, and by putting in the rain gardens and the wetlands, that's going to reduce the amount that we mow. So it's not going to be a lot of expense or consideration. So, but again, we'd like to put it in the same type of format, in an agreement form. And finally, the last is for a boardwalk, and the community building development team was proposing an agreement between the city and the DDA, which I think is unnecessary. The DDA has no money. They're a negative tax capture. And Perry and I have talked about that. Perry's the chair of the DDA. If the city wants to do that project, they can take the project on and have DDA spearhead. But there's no need for an agreement between the two bodies because they're both city entities.
Okay.
So, and in terms of the financial part of it, if we're going out after grants or anything, certainly the city would have better leverage for grants than the DDA when, they ask to see your financials, and if they look back, last 5 or 6 years, they've had $1,500 a year. They're probably going to wonder how they're going to make a grant. So, again, I'm in concept, I'm agreeable with all these things, but we just need to work out the details so that if we make a commitment, that we can, knowingly going into it, be able to say, yes, we can meet those expectations.
So on this, being that this is a discussion of this month, for like next month, can we bring that to the council to give approval to move ahead with it as a city project and have DDA?
If they want to do it, we're going to have to commit funds to it, and it's going to be a council discussion whether they want to get into it. I'm just saying that the agreement itself we don't need because of the relationship between the city and the DDA. We're all one and the same.
Was there an amount for that?
Not yet. We didn't want to spend the architectural money until we found out for sure that the city was going to allow it to be done there.
Well, there's a difference between allow and pay for.
Correct. Well, the community building development team has agreed to help the DDA come up with the needed funds.
I see.
Okay. Getting that stuff around.
So yeah, I would say that
I didn't understand that.
none of these are budgeted, so that's going to be something to consider. So we can discuss it at greater length during the meeting, but those are just my considerations. The next is a discussion regarding a proposed agreement between the City of Cedar Springs and the Red Flannel Festival. I've taken a look at it. If the council wants to expend funds in that fashion, that's okay. My concern is that number one, as the agreement stands and as I read it, we can't determine what the costs are. And there's no method for cost containment moving forward. So, I always get worried about entering into an agreement and not knowing what it's going to cost us. Because that's a huge commitment. It might be $50, it might be $50,000, we don't know. So, that...
As the only person here who's on that committee, I can tell you, and again, we were looking to get input from council so we could go back and have another discussion and then bring it back. I feel fairly confident we can put a cap on that.
Yeah, and that's fine, but it has to be in an agreement. That's the big thing.
We were trying to see if this is the direction that council wanted to go.
And then the other concern I have was the unanimous vote of future councils to void the contract or the agreement. That could certainly become problematic
We don't have enough zero.
in the fact that in the fact that if something changes financially, this council says, we've got, this is costing us too much, we can't do whatever, or there's just a change in attitude, it takes a unanimous vote. And, that could be very problematic. And absent that unanimous vote, the way I read the agreement, there would be only two options to resolve that problem. And that would be for the council not to honor the agreement, or they could just say, we're not going to allow the red flannel to be held in count, which both is going to, either option is going to turn the community on its ear. So I just wanted to point those things out that, that I think council should consider. So again, we can discuss that at greater length. And then as part of that agreement, there's a reciprocal agreement from the Red Flannel Festival regarding use of some of their trademarks.
Mm-hmm. All of them, I think.
Okay. I didn't know if it was all.
That's what she said, all 14.
Right.
That's my understanding. I can get clarification on that.
Yeah, I don't know. I don't know how many they have. I don't
Right,
know
but tonight's the discussion.
Yep.
It's a discussion.
Yep. And then the next is the discussion regarding a welcome sign to be placed on the White Pine Trail. I know Dan Clark wanted that on it, and that's all I know. So I don't know. Maybe we
I
best
don't know
table
either.
this until.
Sure.
No, I wrote that.
Oh, did you put it on?
Oh, I thought Dan wanted that.
He might have done it too, Brad.
That's fine.
You can speak to it?
Now, or you want?
Well, but just
It's
in
a-
general, like,
It's a discussion,
so you can, you are in a position to be able to do that?
Now?
Well, no, if you want to
In
get some
general.
details now.
yeah.
Okay, we have nothing on the trail, and it doesn't have to be on the trail, it could be at the staging area, so that we don't have to deal with the White Pine Trail gods, or whoever they are. And if it was on at the staging area,
The
It would
state
be-
park.
it would be our property, am I right? And we could put, welcome to Cedar Springs.
Right. And I've already had talks with Josh Tello, who's the supervisor for the White Pine Trail, about it. And we've been going back and forth for some time. And they do have a committee. They are amenable to welcome signs, because that's what we taught. Another community member was interested in something, 1 mile to Cedar Springs, or at the city limits, welcome to City Springs, the city of Cedar Springs. And he said, put something down on paper, get it to us, and we'll make comments. So they're agreeable to the concept.
Oh, well, can I add a little something to that? As part of our discussion with the Red Flannel Festival, when we were talking about how to try to come to some kind of a agreement on this, one of the things we talked about was signage. And the sign that Mr. Clark, is that his name? The gentleman that brought the sign about the spring?
Historical site.
Mr. Clark?
Yeah.
Yeah, Mr. Clark brought that very beautiful historical sign. And we were talking about the idea that the festival might be willing to go forward sharing some of the expenses of signage for the city and getting signs for things like the Red Flannel Festival office, but in addition to other historical areas, and we might even make like a little mini trail that comes off the White Pine Trail that would take you to the historical places throughout Cedar Springs. And that could be, like they were saying, one of the things that they might help pay for big signs at the entrance of each part of the city with the Red Flannel sign. That was part of the conversation, although we didn't put it in this agreement. We listed it as agreements going forward. But just as for what it's worth, that's part of the conversation that we were having is about signage.
Yeah.
So, because we do seem to have a dearth of that in our community. Like we really could use more signage.
Plus we have the trailhead, the national trailhead sign, so there's some, probably once everybody comes together and decides what type of sign we do need.
Yeah.
I've got some big requests for a wayfaring sign.
Okay,
that
we'll
will-
Oh,
work on that.
cool.
I knew the DDA was, so.
And I think, like we were saying, when we get our fire truck done and we have a pretty place for it, we need a sign that tells the whole history of our fire truck.
I got stencils.
Okay. Marty's gonna start spray painting.
The next is a motion to waive council policy 12, so that we could act on tree trimming and cutting bids at the first consideration, and this would be to approve bids for trimming in or removing city trees. Next is management report. Just a reminder that Thursday, May 28th at 6:30 in your council chambers, we're going to have our training on the Open Meetings Act and parliamentary procedures. I checked with Solon Township about the fire study that we're participating in, and it looks like it's not going to start until late June or early July at the soonest, and that's just because of workload of the consultants they selected. Cemetery, just to make sure council understands that DPW has been spending a lot of time out there getting it ready for Memorial Day, and I've been assured repeatedly that it's going to be ready, and I believe it will.
Always is.
I'm sure it will.
And I'll be taking Friday, May 22nd as a vacation day, but again, I'll be available by phone or email. And again, a reminder that City Hall will be closed on Monday, May 25th, in observance of Memorial Day. And we're going to host the Clean Air Action Display from Van Valley Metro Council. We hosted it last year, so we're going to be hosting it again. And it's going to be the last week of May, May 26th through June 1st, and it'll be out in the lobby. And then there's several community members along with me that are going to be going to Michigan Municipal League Suburban Summit at Third Ballpark. Really talks about placemaking, economic development in the community, and it should be a good opportunity to learn some things and bring back to our community. But we've got some good representation. We've got people from Planning Commission, from the DDA, from Council. So just different people will be going.
Are you calling us all different that are going?
Yeah. Every one of you different. And again, just to pick up on the conversation we had before the workshop started, we did lose those 7 seconds of the meeting last Thursday, and we were able to diagnose it through drop cam support. They just unexplained significant drop in signal strength, and so we're going to take steps to rectify that. One of the things that we're going to do, even though there's a surge protector on that power strip, the IT recommended a battery powered backup surge, so we're going to get one of those, trying to take out all the variables. We didn't know if it was a power surge or exactly what, but it did turn out to be signal strength. But we're still going to do that, along with go on a different band for the wireless, and hopefully that'll take care of the problem. That's the end of my report. Thank you.